Hey, it's Jeremy from OpticHouse.com. So, in general, I tend to learn more from my mistakes than from the things that I get right. And it pains me because when I look back at older pages, sometimes I see things I'm like, oh, that was a little bit off. That wasn't right. I should have changed this or should have changed that. One of the things that I'm noticing that I'm always trying to be careful of is fighting tangents. Tangents are when you have lines that should be overlapping, so it looks like one line is cutting across the other one, but instead they intersect. And the reason why this is important is, for instance, when you look at this page, the panel up in the upper right hand, the third panel on the page, the way that the thumb is sort of touching the beard of Uriel. I should have either done it so that the thumb was definitely covering part of the beard and was in front of it, or had it spaced a little bit further away so there was a gap between the beard and his thumb. Because if you have one overlapping in front of the other, then it gives a sense that, for instance, it would show that the thumb is very clearly in front of his face, which I know makes sense logically, but showing it is more convincing. It just makes the reality of the page makes it feel more real. But if you can't necessarily set it up or compositionally so that there's overlap, you should definitely have it so they don't just touch each other, because that's kind of visually confusing. And I think this is one of those where I didn't catch it as I was going through the page. This one's already long inked and in print. But I find that a lot of times it reminds me that on the pages I'm working on now, I've got to be really careful of those things. For instance, the panel that's being inked here at the bottom, I've got a nice compositional sort of triangular shape that's framing the figures all together. But within that, I've got Uriel laying down, I've got Ariel laying in front of him, I've got Uriel's arm going behind her back, his shoulders behind the pillow that is behind Ariel's head. So there's a whole lot of overlap going on there. And the thing about overlap is it helps sell depth. One thing physically is in front of another, is in front of another, and is in front of another. Without overlap, you get a bunch of things that just look very flat, like shrinky dinks or color forms. They look like just flat cutouts all laid on the same surface. And you can take objects that don't have a lot of detail or a lot of shading and feel very round. You can still make those things feel like they have depth if you place your overlap properly. So you've got the things that are, obviously in front, on top with somewhat of a thicker line. That's also the reason why I tend to have a thicker line going around the main figure, and then I'll also use a thicker line around the other figures, but I try to make it so that each of those lines work kind of like layers. You get a sense that one large shape is in front of the next large shape, or if you have two of them interacting, you try to place that the lines that are inside that have different thick and thinnesses. Like, for instance, all the lines that are inside of the figure, once I do the large outer line, all those lines, I'm using a smaller brush to kind of draw the details in there, but I don't want them to overshadow or fight with the main overriding shape. That's another challenge that I personally have with detail, because a lot of times when I get more detail with a page, like on this panel, I was fighting to bring all the detail back in line with the major form. It didn't come smoothly, and this one was a rough one for me. It was all about trying to get those forms to feel like they described what was going on with the figures and their muscles and their anatomy, but still fitting in with that overall shape. And it's a tough battle. That's it for now. Check out my website, OpticHouse.com. If you enjoy these videos, please share them. Also, sign up for my weekly newsletter to get a free digital download and see what else I'm working on. Go be creative.